I don't usually make guides, but I have nothing else to do. So, here we go. The Genshin Impact Combat Simplified, okay? I'm just gonna break down the entire combat system. Not really how you play it, because you can really just do it however you want, but just kind of the different roles that characters have. So, essentially, there's two main roles. You're either a damage character, or you're a support character. Damage characters do damage, support characters support the damage characters to make them either not die or do more damage. Examples of damage characters. Let's go to the character archive actually. Examples of damage characters would be Ito is a good example. Yoimiya is a good example. These are Eula, damage characters. Ganyu, obviously. Damage characters. Xiao. Okay? Damage characters can also be off-field damage. They can do off-field damage, so they don't have to be on the field to do damage. This also helps with elemental reactions and stuff. So good examples of this would be characters like Rosaria with her ultimate, or Albedo is a really good example. Xiangling, Shincho, Beidou, Fischl, these are all off-field damage characters. And then you have the supports. The supports make the damage characters do more damage. So, Shenhe, Yunjin, Goro, Bennett is the best character in the game. He's a support character, okay? With these support characters, you have kind of like 3 different little areas of support. You can be a healer, you can be a buffer, or you can proc elemental reactions, which is also kind of off-field. That's where Shincho, Beidou, and Xiangling are considered support characters because they help proc elemental reactions, right? Bennett is a healer and buffer. Goro is a support, he just buffs the party. Shenhe just buffs the party. Yunjin just buffs the party. These are all supporting characters, right? Healers, Kokomi is a healer. Diona is a really good support character. She is a healer and a shielder, and she can be a buffer with her C6. Chi-Chi is a healer. Noelle is a shielder and somewhat of a damage character. Jean is definitely a healing character. And then you have these other characters that kind of have their own little niches that only very few characters fit into. Animo characters buff the party with their specific artifact set, Viridescent Veneraire set, which decreases defense and stuff. They also sometimes have CC, which is crowd control, so they can suck enemies in. Let me give an example of that real quick. Okay, so I've assembled a crowd control team. Sucrose and Kazuha, I'm going to show you how they do crowd control with just their abilities purely. And then the elemental combat system comes in with Xiangyun and Xingqiu. So see, she is sucking in these enemies. Kazuha can do that too. With sucking in these enemies, so they're all grouped up and they get sucked into that little bubble, right? Now Xingqiu is different, because Xingqiu helps support the party by freezing sometimes, if you put him on a freeze team with, say, Ayaka, who has cryo attacks. Now, not only is Kazuha and Sucrose a crowd control character, they also buff the damage. Let me show you an example of that. Okay, so here we have Tartaglia. Tartaglia has a big burst of damage, okay? So, when you do his ult, that did about 43,000 damage. Alright, so I'm going to recharge his ult. I will then buff him and show you how much his ult hits for when you buff him. Okay, so now I have Tartaglia, same character, except I have 3 buffers on the team, and I'm going to use all of them. I have Bennett, Kazuha, and Mona. Let me go through all of the buffs these characters give. Bennett's ult gives the character an attack bonus based on his base attack. So he's going to give him a bit more than 700 of his attack. Kazuha has boosts elemental damage bonus, as well as decreases resistances with swirl and viridescent and all this good stuff. Mona simply just has a damage amp on her ult. 56% damage bonus for any attack that hits the enemy during her ult. It did 43,000 damage beforehand. I will show you now what it does after I apply all of these different buffs to the same character, same ability. I didn't change anything, any of his stats, any of his artifacts. Okay? So we put down Bennett, put down Kazuha, put down Mona's thing, put down Mona's ult. Okay? We used Tartaglia's ult again. And that time it did 85,000 damage. Okay? I doubled his damage just by using different buffers on the team. So that's how buffers work. Healers and shielders, I'm pretty sure, are self-explanatory. So now we do damage dealers, okay? There are a couple different types of damage dealers. There are damage dealers that have a phase shift. There are damage dealers that have an elemental infusion. There are damage dealers that don't need any bonuses. And there are damage dealers that rely on their ultimates to do damage. First, we have damage dealers that use their skill to phase shift. Tartaglia is actually a good example of that, but Hu Tao is another. Okay? So you see, Hu Tao scales off of HP. So her attack is there. She has 36,000 HP. So I hit him. I'm doing about 1,400 damage. Alright? I press this ability, and now I'm doing 13,000, 17,000 damage, right? Next, there's elemental infusion damage dealers. Genshin is a good example of an elemental infusion damage dealer, so I'm doing physical damage now. That's the white numbers. I use my ability, and now I'm doing electro damage, right? It's not a huge damage increase, but I did switch my damage. Then you have these characters that do damage based just off of their normal attacks, usually physical damage dealers. Ayaka is one of the few elemental damage dealers that doesn't really need to use their skill or has a cooldown on their elemental infusion, but physical characters are a good example of this. Even if I press my ult, this only increases my attack speed. My damage is still coming from the auto attack, so you can see my numbers really don't change that much. Then you have burst damage dealers who use their elemental burst to do damage, and you have to get their burst back. So they have a cooldown based on just how much energy you get back. So even if my cooldown on my ult goes away, you can see it's 5 seconds. I can't use it until I get my until I get all the particles back for that ultimate ability. Now, I guess we'll go through supports, like the different kind of supports. So we have utility. Xiangling is good off-field damage. We went through buffers. Elemental reactions, I guess, is a good example. Diona is a good example of a utility character. If I press her skill, she gives me a shield, right? This shield blocks damage. You can see I don't take damage. My HP doesn't go down or anything when that happens. The shield lasts for a set time, and during that set time, unless the shield runs out of HP, I don't take damage. So, right? Now I can use my ultimate ability, and that will heal me. So any damage I did take, if I did take damage, it's being healed. You can see my HP is going up, right? This character also, at Constellation 6, when you're in her ult, she gives you 200 elemental mastery, which increases your elemental reaction bonus, right? Xiangling is off-field damage, essentially. So she's a damage dealer, in my opinion, because you use her ult, and it does damage, you can see, but I can swap out to another character and do stuff with them, and Xiangling is still doing damage, right? I can use their abilities. Now, when I use Diona's ultimate, elemental mastery increases, so this guy's frozen, this'll hit for a lot of damage. You see that hit for 10,000 damage. That's a lot of damage. And then, I think we went through this before, but then we have elemental reaction supports. So Chongyun and Shincho are a good example. Shincho's also off-field. You don't need to be on him for his ultimate to shoot those swords, right? you can switch to anybody else. So that's a good example of a off-field support. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the combat system simplified. All the elemental reactions really just either, they just add more damage, or if it's frozen, it freezes the enemies, obviously. But that's really the only one I can think of that's like, that doesn't just add more damage. So, yeah, bye.